cahaya tadi ya. Ada bagusnya juga. Tadi ada Indonesia Raya bersempena dengan kebangkitan nasional, sekaligus juga dengan semangat kita untuk meningkatkan pengetahuan berbahasa Inggris. Saya kira sudah jelas ya, tidak perlu berpanjang-panjang lagi maksud dan tujuannya, karena wilayah kita ini kan dekat dengan jiran-jiran, maju-maju jalan ke depan. Berbagai tantangan-tantangan banyak kita hadapi. Lebih-lebih lagi provinsi kita ini kan kaya dengan wisata. Jalan-jalannya tadi saya dapat lapor, kita dengarkan jam-jam ngantuk gitu. Ya rata-rata jam 3 sore, jam-jam ngantuk. Jadi tolong diusahakan supaya nggak ngantuk. Saya minta laporan ya, yang absen siapa ya Pak Badan Diklat. Kali ini dibelanjai oleh uang negara, masyarakat juga menuntut perbaikan-perbaikan. Tidak ada sulit, tidak ada hal-hal yang perlu dikhawatirkan. Ini menarik sekali. Tidak lain adalah betul-betul program ini disenangi, dihayati, dikuasai. Dan ini adalah untuk Anda semua. Jadi silakan nanti dimanfaatkan semaksimal mungkin dengan tekad yang kuat. Kita beruntung yang sangat besar. Karena itu konsekuensinya kita juga harus mempersiapkan diri menghadapi perubahan-perubahan yang sudah pasti. Interaksi akan lebih sering lagi dengan pihak-pihak luar, Singapura dan lain-lain, agar kita terus bangkit, menguasai pengetahuan, menguasai teknologi, dan menguasai bahasa. Satu bahasa saya tidak cukup, karena kita bagian dari dunia yang universal. Ini program 48 kali. Itu saja dari saya. Tadi pantunnya sudah habis. Sudah dilewatkan bagus sekali nanti. Itu saya dari saya, dan lagi selamat ya, selamat semua yang diberi kesempatan. Program ini program yang strategik yang akan merubah wajah provinsi kita. Sekali lagi, pemerintah provinsi mengucapkan terima kasih kepada Anda semua, dan kita pikirkan kita sedang merumuskan insentif. Apabila Anda sanggup, kita juga tidak melupakan, kita berikan apresiasi, kita berikan insentif-insentif mengingat penting. Terima kasih atas mudah-mudahan program ini berjalan lancar. Tolong diberikan yang terbaik pada rekan-rekan semua. Usahakan supaya pertemuan-pertemuan yang kelas-kelas menjadi dynamic, bersemangat. Itu saja. Terima kasih atas perhatiannya. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Sumber daya manusia aparatur yang mampu melayani masyarakat secara prima, memiliki kompetensi profesional, berdaya guna, berhasil guna, serta memiliki akhlak mulia dalam menyongsong pelaksanaan Free Trade Zone demi tercapainya visi dan misi Provinsi Kepulauan Riau yang sangat kami cintai ini. Ya Allah yang Maha Aziz, di hadapan-Mu kami adalah makhluk yang lemah dan tidak berdaya. Namun di hadapan kami terbentang tugas yang sangat berat tapi mulia. Maka melalui sifat-Mu yang Maha Aziz, kami mohon, berilah kekuatan lahir dan batin, karunialah kami dengan taufik, hidayah dan inayah-Mu, agar kami mampu bersaing di alam globalisasi saat ini. Cahayamu yang cemerlang, sebagaimana Engkau telah menyinari bumi dengan sinar mataharimu, agar kami tidak terjerumus ke dalam kegelapan yang nista dan nestapa. Ya Allah, ya Ghafur, kami menyadari bahwa selama kami berkiprah.
Hello, welcome to today's episode of Living English. Later, we're going to look at how to compare things and at words for the places where we live. First though, here's our drama, Sisters and Brothers. Remember, Sarah invited Anne to lunch at her house. And in the last episode, we saw Anne arriving, looking around the house, and meeting Sarah's family.
So Anne, have you been to an Australian home before?
No, never. It's a beautiful home, Sarah. So big. The rooms are much bigger than at home. There's more space here.
Do you live in a house?
No, Steve. She lives in an igloo.
Actually, no, we live in an apartment. Most people do. Singapore is much busier than Adelaide and more crowded.
Yeah, and more exciting. It's so boring here.
It's quieter. Some people like that.
I don't think it's boring.
Adelaide is a very beautiful city. It's a better place to live than anywhere else I've been.
But you haven't been anywhere. Mark hates travelling. I love it.
I just don't see the point of it.
What about you, Steve? Do you like to travel?
Yes. Yeah, I've been to Kuala Lumpur and to Bali. Bali's great.
I've been to the zoo.
You're lucky. I haven't been to the zoo. I'd love to go to the zoo.
I'll take you.
Steve does seem very keen to take Anne to the zoo. Perhaps he likes Anne. You'll have to keep watching to find out. But to start with today, let's go back and listen to Anne comparing Sarah's home to hers.
It's a beautiful home, Sarah. So big. The rooms are much bigger than at home. There's more space here.
Home is the word we use for where we live. Sarah's home is a house. When we want to describe things like houses, we use words called adjectives. Listen for the words Anne uses to describe Sarah's home.
It's a beautiful home, Sarah. So big.
She says that Sarah's home is beautiful and big. These are adjectives. They describe Sarah's house, which is also her home. Sarah has a big home. Now listen to what Anne says when she compares it to her home in Singapore.
The rooms are much bigger than at home.
The rooms are bigger. Rooms can be big, and other rooms can be bigger. A word can be small, and another word can be smaller. To compare two things, we change some adjectives by adding an sound. Big, bigger. Small, smaller. These sorts of adjectives are called comparatives. We link the things we are comparing with the word than. Listen for an example of this use of than and a comparative in this clip.
Singapore is much busier than Adelaide and more crowded.
Busier. Singapore is much busier than Adelaide. The city of Adelaide is busy. It has lots of people doing lots of things. But Singapore is busier than Adelaide. It has more people doing more things. Try saying busier than with an.
Singapore is much Adelaide and more crowded. Singapore is much busier than Adelaide and more crowded.
Notice that Anne said that Singapore was much busier. She also said the rooms in Sarah's house are much bigger. Things can be big, bigger, and much bigger. There's another way of making these sorts of comparisons. Adelaide is busy and crowded, but
Singapore is much busier than Adelaide and more crowded.
Singapore is more crowded than Adelaide. Instead of adding the sound to crowded, we say more crowded. This is crowded, this is more crowded, and this is much more crowded. We mostly use more with long adjectives and with short adjectives. Crowded, more crowded. Big, bigger. Now listen to what Steve says about Singapore compared to Adelaide.
Singapore is much busier than Adelaide and more crowded.
Yeah, and more exciting.
He said that Singapore is more exciting. Exciting is a long adjective, so we say more before it. More exciting. Now listen to what Mark says about Adelaide.
It's a better place to live than anywhere else I've been.
Better. There are two important adjectives that don't have more said before them or added to them. These adjectives are good and bad. Things can be bad and they can be worse. One thing can be good, but another thing can be better. Have a go at saying better with the clip.
Anywhere else I've been. It's a better place to live than anywhere else I've been.
And here to make living English better is Michelle Crowden. Hello, Michelle.
Hello, Brenton. Hello, everyone. Let's compare a few things. Which one of us is taller? Stand up, Brenton.
I'm taller than you.
Yes, Brenton is taller than me. That makes me shorter than you.
Well, that's true, but you have longer hair.
Yes, my hair is much longer than yours. Now let's compare places to live. First, listen to what Anne calls her home.
Do you live in a house?
No, Steve. She lives in an igloo.
Actually, no, we live in an apartment.
Her family lives in an apartment.
Michelle, what's an igloo?
An igloo is a home made out of ice. People who live in very cold places, such as Alaska or Greenland, might build an igloo. But Anne lives in an apartment. What other words do we use for an apartment, Brenton?
A flat. In Australia, an apartment is often called a flat.
And what are they?
A group of rooms on one floor of a building.
So they're not very big.
No. houses are bigger than flats.
What's bigger than a house?
A mansion. A mansion is bigger than a house.
And what's bigger than a mansion?
A palace. A palace is bigger than a mansion. That's as big as a home can get.
A palace would be harder to clean than an apartment. And we know that Singapore is busier than Adelaide. Listen to Sarah compare Adelaide to Singapore.
It's quieter. Some people like that.
Quieter. If Adelaide is quieter than Singapore, Brenton, then what is Singapore compared to Adelaide?
Singapore must be noisier than Adelaide.
Now it's your turn to use some comparative adjectives. Here I have a pencil and a needle. Both of them are sharp, but which one is sharper? What do you think, Brenton?
Ouch! The needle is sharper than the pencil.
True. Now, here's another pencil. They're both long, but which pencil is longer? The red one or the blue one? You tell me. The red pencil is longer than the blue one. And we can also use the word short, the opposite of long. Which pencil is shorter? The blue pencil is shorter than the red one. Now, let's try some longer adjectives. Remember, for longer words, we use the word more in front of them. What about the word beautiful? Who is more beautiful? Brenton or me? That's right. I am more beautiful than Brenton.
I'm not so sure about that.
Well, tell me this. Here are two animals. Which animal is more dangerous? The lion or the mouse? The lion is more dangerous than the mouse. Which animal is more frightening? The mouse is more frightening than the lion.
I don't think so. I think the lion is more frightening than the mouse.
Not to me. What about this one?
The snake is much more frightening than the mouse.
I agree. Something that is frightening is something that makes you afraid.
Michelle and I have a different opinion about what is frightening. Michelle thinks a mouse is frightening, but I don't.
Listen to Sarah giving her opinion about travelling.
Mark hates travelling. I love it.
She said that Mark hates travelling. Hates is more intense than doesn't like. Mark doesn't like travelling. He really doesn't like it. Mark hates travelling. Sarah also said, I love it. Love is an exaggerated way of saying like. I like it. I really like it. I love it.
You can say that you